I was just getting ready to wind down and then I found this wonderful gem by the Daily Mail. Ross Clark, has anyone caused as much damage to the British economy as Egghead Miliband? You want to tell him, or should I? Hey Ross, Egghead Miliband never got a chance to destroy the economy because he lost the election to David Cameron in 2015 when everybody realised he wasn't tough enough. I'm also starting to think that everybody's got amnesia of the last 2 years. The current government, in fact the current Prime Minister, then Chancellor, is the one that destroyed the economy by throwing this country into lockdown for 2 years, printed an unspeakable amount of money to ensure that everybody stayed at home and didn't go to work, told we couldn't open our businesses unless you worked at Tesco, or just name any other multinational supermarket, and caused God knows how many businesses to go under. I'm going to extend an olive branch to our friend Ross here, because it's worth remembering that him and his party are leading the polls. The opposition's climate spokesman yesterday committed a future Labour government to caving into demands from governments around the world for reparations to cover loss and damage from climate change. He didn't want to use the R word, and he didn't want to think it would mean the UK sending billions of taxpayers' money off to China, although China is one of the countries that has been demanding payments from the West for historic carbon emissions. He told Laura Kuenssberg that Britain had a moral responsibility to pay up on the grounds of its historic emissions. Does someone want to tell this arse badger that China has produced more CO2 emissions in the last 8 years than Britain has since the Industrial Revolution? And there I was thinking the current government is being utterly incompetent with taxpayers' money and wasting it on things that we don't need. Now the bloody opposition is coming along and saying that they want to do it as well. I mean, these guys are leading in the polls, so I'm assuming the vast majority of people want their taxpayers' money to be sent off to other countries. I guess policies like this are very popular with the British public. Does he honestly think Britain should be apologising for the success of the Industrial Revolution? 200 years ago, the vast majority of the world's population lived in poverty. To take one statistic that demonstrates the jump in living standards since then, global life expectancy went from 29 years in 1800 to 71 years now. Keep going, Labour. You're just a couple of steps away from Ted Kaczynski. Although even Ted Kaczynski would be fuming at some of the green energy policies. And I doubt he'd support reparations. Whether living standards in Britain can continue to improve is another matter. Thanks to the Climate Change Act, our economy has now got a very large weight attached to its feet. The Act, passed when Miliband was Climate Secretary in 2008, originally placed a legal commitment on the UK government to ensure that by 2050, carbon emissions would be reduced from 80% on 1990 levels. But in 2019, 80% was increased to 100% reductions, i.e. to net zero emissions, without even a vote in the Commons. Yet no one has any idea of how Britain can reach this target without crashing the economy. Not to mention utterly decimating our energy supply and becoming reliant on other countries again, completely ignoring that we're not a major polluter, but at least our politicians get to feel good. Just build nuclear power stations. Just build nuclear power stations and all this goes away. Make sure they're run by this country. Do not outsource them to other countries to run for us. Do that, and by the time they're up and running, you can switch off all fossil fuels, and then bam! Net zero reached, and we've got a functioning energy grid. But no, they won't do that, because, well, nuclear power is the one source of energy that doesn't make the working classes sacrifice anything. You cannot be browbeaten into giving up and surrendering things in your daily life if we had nuclear power. But hey, these guys are leading in the polls, so I guess the kind of things they want to do, which is more or less the same as what the Tories want to do, they just want to throw twice as much money at it and hope that it fixes something. Supposedly, this is very popular with the British public, so what can I say? The Just Stop Oil manifesto, essentially. Extinction Rebellion. Put wind turbines and solar panels everywhere. Solar panels that are built in Xinjiang, by the way, by Uyghur Muslims. Definitely not being genocided. You know, those things that only work with specific weather conditions. Solar panels only work during the day. Wind turbines only work when it's windy. As opposed to nuclear power, which runs all the time. You turn it on and that's it. It's running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Job done.